It is officially a brand new month, and as someone who is a salaried worker or an employee, it means that I have recently been paid for my work in the past month. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how I manage my finances, budget this one income as someone who is currently living alone and is primarily responsible for solely herself. I consider myself financially literate. So even though every single thing I share in this video is not financial advice, you can learn a thing or two about managing your finances. I'm also leaving a few questions that will allow you to assess where you are at the moment and what steps you need to take moving forward. I'm filming this video in the first week of October 2024. So if you're watching this in real time, happy new month. I pray that this month is a blessing to you and everybody you care about. I have been living alone for about 2 years at this point. And before I moved out, I was living with my parents and my siblings. My expenses were pretty much minimal while I was living with my parents because I did not have to pay rent. I did not have to pay any bill at all. And most of my money went into maybe buying tiny things for myself, my transportation to work and back and maybe around town, and also food for when I don't feel like eating whatever was available at home. Moving out of my parents' house to live by myself came with an entirely different set of responsibilities. One of them was that I was for the most part financially responsible for myself. Back at my parents' house, I didn't have a lot to worry about financially, but now the maintenance and the running of my household was all reliant on me. For someone who is financially literate, the moment my salary hits my bank account, the first thing I do is draw up a budget. And this budget to determine how my income is distributed. Basically, how I spend my money, what I spend it on, and if I'm making the right decisions based on my goals. One of the first things I do when I receive my salary is I pay myself. And this is a concept I learned from a book called The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clarkson. In the book, he lays emphasis on the fact that most of the time when we get an income, it goes into paying everybody else but us. And we can start with as little as 10% of your income. And so that money can be invested in whatever you're comfortable with. And you don't end up living paycheck to paycheck. I make sure I do this every single month. There are months that the percentage is higher. There are months that the percentage is not as high. But it is a practice that I try to consistently do every single month. Another thing I do is note down my needs and my wants for the month. So what I call my needs are the things that I need. They are pretty much necessities that will ensure that I have a good month. Things that I cannot live without in the month. And then the ones are the things that make my life a little better, but I can survive if I do not have them. So some of my needs are money for transportation. I also need money for food because a girl has to survive. And I need money for utility. As I said, I live by myself, so I'm primarily responsible for whatever bills come with living alone. I also prioritize my health and fitness. So another need is gym membership, among other things. Now, some of my wants have got to do with beauty. So beauty treatments, maybe getting a facial, getting my nails done, getting my hair done. I would want to say internet is a need, but I'm sure I can survive without the internet. But I also make sure that every month my internet bill is paid. So for me, it's a need. The rest I'll categorize as wants. Pretty much things that make my month better or make my life a little better. Once I've decided what my needs and wants are, I know how much I can allot to these two things. One of the things I've observed from living alone for 2 years is that once you begin to get comfortable, it is very easy to experience lifestyle inflation or lifestyle creep. What that means is that you begin to increase your spending as your income increases. And the sad part is that you may not realize is happening until some time has elapsed. So for me, what that looked like was that things I was initially okay for going, all of a sudden, I didn't mind spending that extra money on those things. And I didn't mind paying a little more for services simply for convenience sake.
And you thought he was cute before. Look at this peacoat, tell me he's broke.
I find that it is easy to identify lifestyle inflation and nip it in the bud if you budget. Once you begin to budget, you realize that you're very conscious of what part of your life is taking a chunk of your money. So you're able to see the things that are needed and the things that are not necessarily important for your day-to-day. That is why I prioritize budgeting and identifying my needs and my wants. If you're new to budgeting and don't know how to go about it, you can start with the 50-30-20 rule. For the 50-30-20 rule, you're pretty much going to be spending 50% of your income after tax on your needs, and then 30% of that income after tax on your want. Then 20% is going to go into savings or investing. That is a very beginner-friendly way of budgeting, and I find that once you get a hang of that, you're able to adjust the percentages to suit your lifestyle and the goals you have for yourself. I also found that once you do this breakdown and you know how much is going into what, you are able to get the things you need to get. For example, I know how much I can afford to spend on groceries every month, how much I can afford to spend on transportation every single month. So I can easily go do my groceries, get it out of the way so that I'm not tempted to use that money for other things. So right smack at the beginning of the month, I do the things that are important to me. So I do my groceries, I get my internet, I get water, I pay whatever outstanding bill I may have from the previous month. And then I do my beauty treatments, like get my hair done or get my nails done or get a pedicure, so that I can get over and done with. And I'm not tempted to spend that money in the spur of the moment. Another thing I prioritize, in addition to paying myself first and splitting my income based on my wants and my needs, is building up an emergency fund. I find that as someone who lives alone, it is very, very crucial that you have an emergency fund because anything can happen at any freaking time. And I'm not even joking. I've had the most bizarre things happen at the worst times they could possibly happen. One time, my chair broke out of nowhere. I did not have a budget to get a new chair. I still don't have a new chair because I'm just annoyed that why would you just break? What was the reason? But yeah, things like that happen and you have to be ready to sort it out. I find that having an emergency fund has saved my life multiple times. In addition to having an emergency fund, it is also important to have a sinking fund. So a sinking fund is more like savings for things that are not an emergency. Example, a friend's birthday, a family member's birthday, or if you have a life like mine, it will be a random contribution for your high school classmate that is getting married or just had a baby. And sometimes, depending on where you are at, the timing may be bad. But if you have something like a sinking fund, it is easy for you to dip into that savings and be able to sort whatever comes out at any given time. I agree that it may be difficult to simultaneously put money aside for investing, put money into your emergency fund and also have a sinking fund. So if it is too much for you to do at once, you can just build them up little by little and that is okay. Don't get overwhelmed with trying to do every single one of them at the same time, especially if you're new to this. This past weekend or during the week, I was ironing on my bed. I do not own an ironing board because I have this rule for my apartment. If I don't have a designated place for something I'm buying, I try not to buy it because I don't like visual clutter. We can dissect that in another video. If you're not subscribed, subscribe because I share vlogs about my life and who knows, that may come up in another video. But I like to get stuff when I know that I have a place for them in my apartment. I still haven't figured out where I want to put an ironing board in my apartment. And to be honest, it is not a necessity. I can always iron on a surface. It's not that deep. I don't iron as much. So I was ironing on my bed. There's a story. There's a reason I brought it up. I was ironing on my bed this past week and I scotched my bed sheets. I was so pissed, but it was my fault. So I can't even complain. So now I scotched my bed sheets. One of the bulbs in my apartment has not been working for about a week and I had not gotten around to replacing it. And also I had started collecting a few more shoes than my shoe rack can take. So I needed to get a new shoe rack. All these things were technically not part of my budget for the month, but I had some savings that I could dip into to cover these extra costs. So I'm bringing them up to kind of give you an example of what it may look like when you have, say, a sinking fund or an emergency fund and how it may come in handy, especially when you live alone. So yeah, I was able to get some new sheets for my bed, a bulb for my apartment, and I also got this shoe rack. Another thing I have learned from living alone and mastering my finances is that you do not have to be strict when it comes to your finances because life happens. Being extremely strict can suck out the joy out of your life. Like, you cannot afford to buy ice cream, you can't buy this, you can't buy it. Can literally leave your life joyless. I'm currently at a stage in my life where I feel like I need an upgrade when it comes to what I wear or how I present myself. So I'm at a point where I'm trying to prioritize building up my wardrobe, getting things made for me, shopping when I can, and just pretty much putting my wardrobe together so that I can present myself as the version that I am proud of. When it comes to the topic of money or finances, no two people's journeys are the same. We have different priorities based on where we are at life, or our earnings, or whatever is going on in our life. Another thing I include in my budget for the month that I don't necessarily include intentionally is I put money aside towards, I don't want to say charity because I feel maybe it's just a mind thing, but I put money aside for when somebody needs help, or when I feel moved to make a donation, for lack of a better word. And I find that in as much as giving a gift to someone may in the moment be a blessing to them, it also makes me feel good. So I may or may not be doing it for selfish reasons, but I do put money aside for when I want to make a donation, or I think that, maybe this person in my life needs this, or something along that line. There's a lot of blessing in giving, no matter your religion or your beliefs. So if you have enough that you can afford to give somebody or help anybody in your life that may need the help, don't hold back. So one thing I've also learned is that if you're a good steward of your money, you're trusted with more. So don't be reckless with your spending because you have money. Be a good steward of your money. Use your money for good. Don't be wasteful, and you will find that money likes your company. You attract more money. So I have a clean apartment. You have stuck with me from when my apartment was looking crusty to now it's looking pretty much squeaky clean. While it is important to budget your income, I find that it is very easy to waste money without knowing. So you can watch this video next where I talk about how you may be wasting money without noticing, and ways you can fix it so that you can easily reach your financial goals or attain financial freedom. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in this video. Ciao.